welcome back to the Love God, Love Your Neighbour channel. Grab yourself a cup of coffee, or in my case, a cup of tea, and join me for this little chat. I say chat because I'd love for you just to like the video down below, put some comments so I can reply to those. I'll always reply to every comment, and email me at the email address lglnchannel@gmail.com, and love to hear from you. Just as we explore this, next video is about me telling you my story. That's my life story and how I became a Christian. So my story is basically that I grew up in Hungerford. I grew up with one younger brother through most of my childhood years. I was later to have a second younger brother. There was a 16-year gap between me and my youngest brother. So I've got two younger brothers now. I grew up in Hungerford. I had a lovely, joyous childhood. That was my experience kind of growing up, really. Two parents living in Hungerford. I went to Hungerford Primary School, John O'Gaunt School, which also meant that my family lived through the traumatic, horrific, horrendous event that was the Hungerford Massacre. And there's another whole story how my family were directly involved in that. But needless to say, that was traumatic for us, a real life trauma. I was age 12 at the time, my younger brother was age 10. So I was age 12. I became a Christian when I was 14. I'm going to come back to that and tell you how that happened shortly. I enjoyed theatre and drama in my teens. Had an A-star at drama at GCSE. And that was my passion, so I went on to study at the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama, and graduated from there with an honours degree, Bachelor of Arts in Drama. I started teaching drama at a secondary school in Wales, where I studied there in Cardiff before. I then started teaching some special needs children in Cardiff before I returned home, and I started teaching at the local special needs school. I kind of always was involved with kind of children with special needs, because in the summer from university I would return home and was employed by the local charity West Berkshire Mencat. So that's how I kind of got into working with special needs kids. I worked for West Berkshire Mencat upon returning home for 4 years, and then went back into special needs teaching for about 15 years. Before, at the age of 38, kind of had what some people would describe as, I suppose, a mental breakdown, but it was actually wasn't that. It was another mental disorder that I was diagnosed with at the time, that really just kind of split my identity. I was just not completely just trying to sort out who I was. There was a whole another story there I won't go into, but a real difficult mental health kind of challenging time. That Christian friends helped me live through that. I had some professional psychotherapy help at the time as well. So over a period of 2 to 3 years, all that kind of got resolved, and for me to help me just understand who I am as a whole person. And around that time there was also some other really horrible kind of stuff going on with some other people from church, so I actually moved away from the church I was in at the time, and completely changed church, changed job, had a fresh start with understanding who I was, and that's led me to do the job I do now, which I now work for a company called Born Leisure. We went back to Hungerford and worked at a wonderful place called Little Kate. Love the team there, love what I do there. I've been there for coming up to 3 years now, and yeah, just serving the guests, and my team there is great. So that's kind of my life story in a nutshell. But the most important thing about that is not just all the natural kind of stuff that happens to me, but the spiritual thing that happened to me when I was 14. So let me just finish by sharing that story with you, how I actually became a Christian. Grew up, my parents, my mum sent us to kind of Sunday school, take us to Sunday school I should say, but my dad didn't have a faith at the time when me and my younger brother were growing up. He came to know Jesus Christ later in his own life, so when my second youngest was growing up, by then my dad was a Christian. But when I was growing up, he didn't have faith, it was just mum that sent us to Sunday school. So I didn't exactly grow up in a Christian home that people would call a Christian home. Although we were allowed to go to church if we wanted to, and then if we wanted to, then Mum would take us. So I kind of grew up knowing about God, and knowing who the Lord Jesus was, but didn't really understand how to come to have personal relationship with God through Jesus, until I would go to some kind of like summer Bible camps with some family friends of ours, the Butlers. I started to learn a bit more about this faith journey through Jesus and having a relationship with God was possible. But I didn't make that decision until I was age 14. My uncle and aunt, who were Christians at the time, invited me and my mum, my brother, to go to Wembley Stadium. We went out by bus to London, to the Wembley Stadium, to hear Billy Graham speak, the evangelist who was coming to London. He was speaking at the Wembley Stadium. We saw him live. It was being satellite transmitted to all these other venues and churches and halls and places across the country. But we were actually there hearing his message. And on that day, what happened was it was basically thunderous. Rain was pouring down. The whole rumbling of thunder was happening. The choir was singing before Billy Graham got up to speak. Jesus was going to speak, but through Billy Graham. But before Billy Graham spoke, as I say, the rain was pouring torrential. The stage on which the platform on which he was stood was obviously in the open area, and if Wembley at the time had this kind of sheltered seating around where I was sat, and as the first parts of the service finished and Billy Graham got up to speak, as he came up to speak, literally as he was being introduced, the rain just stopped, and as he got up, the clouds shifted. You know that time when sometimes you just see the sun kind of just move across? That literally happened as we saw the sun ray just sweep across the stadium as the guy got up to share this message of hope in Jesus. So we were able to hear him, because prior to that point, everything else that was happening, we were almost strained to hear because of the rain peltering down on the roof above us. It was really difficult to hear what was going on until Billy Graham got up to speak, and then the rain just, as they stopped, the sun came out. It was literally miraculous. Not only that, he gave the message and was obviously describing how we can come to God through faith in Jesus, and he was just talking about the love of God, the power of God, and towards the end of his message, as he's talking about the power of God, there was another rumble of thunder, which was quite surprising because by now the sun had come out. So we got this rumble of thunder, and a strike of lightning came into the Wembley Stadium directly in front of us and just struck the ground in front of the platform where he was speaking. Don't know, obviously didn't hit any of the highlights or the speakers, any of the electrical stuff that was around, just kind of hit the ground. This fork of lightning was literally visible, you could see it. And after that went, there was this rumble of thunder that then started directly opposite from where I was sitting and went around the stadium. As this rumble of thunder came all around the stadium, people were covering their ears as it kind of passed them. I covered my ears, as did my mum and aunt, the uncle that was sat with me at the time. We covered our ears. This rumble of thunder continued, went back to where it started, and as soon as that happened, we just seen the power of God. Obviously, Billy Graham gave this invitation for people to come and into a relationship with God, and that's when I just realised, wow, I believed in my heart that God was real, but I saw the power of God that day. And I heard the love of God for me, and I just said, yes, God, you love me. I'm going to come and believe that you love me, that you gave your son Jesus for me. I went forward. Somebody led me through the 4 points of becoming a Christian that you can go through on the video, How to Become a Christian. I had a little Luke Gospel book given me, starting out with Jesus, just getting to know Jesus through the Bible there, book, and a decision card that somebody wrote on that day. So that I know, basically the day that I decided to live my life for Jesus, become a Christian. Best decision I ever made in my life. I made when I was 14. So that's how I became a Christian. And then since then I started going to initially Church of England. Then when I went to Cardiff, I went to a Brethren church. When I come home, I went to a Pentecostal church. I'm now in a Commission church. So I've been in lots of different types of churches over my Christian life. If I was saved at the age of 14, I'm now age 45, so I've been a Christian for just over 30 years. Best decision of my life. Love the living for God, loving God and just loving my neighbour, doing the things that God calls us to do is exciting. It gives me such a peace and joy and hope, and yeah, that's the kingdom stuff that's in my life. So that's my life, that's my journey, and how I've become a Christian. And I hope you've got your own story. If not, then watch the video on how to become a Christian. You can start your own journey and relationship with God today. Please like this video, put comments below, email me at the usual email address, lglnchannel@gmail.com, if you've got any questions about what I've shared in this or any of the videos. Would love to hear from you.